pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Stover, would you please call roll?
Mrs. Hopper?
Here.
Ms. Mapp Franklin?
Here.
Mr. Reedy?
Here.
Mr. Schindler?
Here.
Mr. Seltzer?
Here.
Mr. Spector?
Here.
Mr. Todd?
I am here. We have no closed session tonight, but we do have quite a few recognitions. So this evening, the Board of Education is recognizing an outstanding group of Parkway students, some schools, and some special community members. We're honoring National Merit Commended and semifinalist students, students and teachers as research scientists, program participants, Lighthouse School, and National Schools of Character, and the Prop S Citizen Committee. First, I'd like to invite Dr. Tiffany Holman-Bess, our Deputy Superintendent, to begin the recognition of our National Merit students. And board members, we will kind of convene here in front.
President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Dr. Marty, Mrs. Stover, and members of the Board of Education. 47 Parkway students have been recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, an independent, not-for-profit organization that conducts competitions for recognition and college undergraduate scholarships through two programs, the National Merit Scholarship Program and the National Achievement Scholarship Program. The National Merit Scholarship Program is an annual academic competition which identifies seniors who represent the top of their graduating class. Commended students placed among the top 50,000 students who entered the competition by taking the preliminary SAT/National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. More than 1.6 million juniors and over 22,000 high schools entered the National Merit Program by taking the SAT, National Merit Scholarship qualifying test, which serves as an initial screener. About 16,000 students, representing less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors, qualified as National Merit semifinalists. 28 Parkway students earned National Merit semifinalist status, and additional 19 students are recognized as commended. National Merit semifinalists have an opportunity to qualify for nearly 7,250 Merit Scholarship Awards worth more than $28 million that will be offered next spring. Some students were unable to join us this evening for recognition, but will still have their names announced. Students, please come forward as your name is called. I'd like to welcome Dr. Tim McCarthy, principal of Central High School, to recognize his students.
Good evening, and thank you so much on behalf of my colleagues and all of the students. We really appreciate the Board of Education taking time to recognize these wonderful scholars. So thank you. And students, please, as we call your name, come up, shake the hands of each of the board members, and to the audience, we certainly want to applaud for each of these wonderful students. So first, Central High's commended students, Aria Gizare, Rebecca Green, Samantha Hadukowitz, Elliot Leong, Audrey Osterman, and now Central High's semifinalist, Gayarthi Benoj, Emily Huang, Allison Laudenbach, Nisha Morali, Sonali Paranjyothi, and finally, Rifa Riza. And now my esteemed colleague from Parkway North, Mr. David Jones.
Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. Thank you, Board of Education, for this opportunity. Students, we're so very proud of you guys, so proud of your dedication inside of the classroom. As we stand here tonight, I want to thank you guys for your hard work, your dedication, and your willingness to put forth that extra effort as pertaining to the classroom. Please know that your extra effort does not go unnoticed. So thanks for working hard, and thanks for continuing to make your school proud. At this time, I'd like to recognize our commended scholars, Mina Kalinathabota, Sarah Rogers, and Diana Carrington. I'd also like to recognize our semifinalist, Aman Pai. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the podium Ms. Angie Pappas, Principal at South High.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Good evening. And on behalf of the high school principals, we also want to extend our admiration and appreciation to all of you for being model citizens in our school communities. We are so lucky to have students like you among us. So tonight at South High, we would like to recognize first our commended student, Anushka Rawat. Our South High semifinalists are Manvi Agarwal, Ria Chopra, Ashok Kothamasu, William Sorg, Lauren Turco, and lastly, Karis Vetter. Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure to announce West High Principal, Mr. John McCabe.
My esteemed high school principal colleagues and I would also like to, before we conclude, with the recognition of these scholars from Parkway West, we would just feel it would be remiss to not thank and acknowledge the support of all the families in this room. You know, it takes a village, and we really understand all the sacrifices that go into reaching the highest levels of success like this, and so we just want to take a minute and thank all of you and all these families, so thank you. West High's commended: Anushka Dharmasanam, Matthew Feng, Michael Feng, Ryan Feng, Ava Kaiser, Sangarshan Kumar, Colin Lappin, Grant Meert, Nicholas Menendez, and Umar Muhammad. West High's semifinalists: Owen Arneson, Nikita Beskar, Joseph Britt, Allison Biergo, Bennett Christofferson, Rohan Dagubadi, Ethan DeLuca, Catherine Evans, Wilson Gao, Mitchell Harms, Jacob Rushing, Noah Shell, Shiv Sharma, Alan Song, and Nathan Zhao. Thank you so much, and again, congratulations to all our commended and our semifinalist National Merit Scholars.
At this time, Board of Education, Dr. Marty, we'd like to recognize our STARS students. 11 Parkway students completed the Students and Teachers as Research Scientists, STARS, summer program at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. This summer, 70 students from 34 area high schools took part in the program as it returned to its traditional format after being held virtually last summer. The students worked within the labs of 40 research mentors in the fields of biology, chemistry, computer science, earth science, engineering, environmental science, mathematics, medicine, physics, and psychology. The mentors were from UMSL, or one of its partners, St. Louis University, Washington University, the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center, or the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy. Students, please come forward as your name is called. The Parkway students who made up the 2022 STARS class from Central High are Nina Buzada, Aria Gisare, Nisha Morali, Rifa Riza. From North High, Hannah On and Kalyan Krish. From South High, Manvi Agarwal, Ria Chopra, Naya Swaminathan. From West High, Isha Francis and Umar Muhammad. Again, and congratulations to all of our students and our families, and thank you to the parents and those in the community supporting our students.
Next, please welcome Dr. Greg Matheson to introduce the National Leader in Me Lighthouse School and National Schools of Character.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Todd, Vice President Hopper, and board members, Dr. Marty. and Mrs. Stover. I'm pleased to be here tonight to talk about our character education as well as our Lighthouse schools. Within the education industry, well, I need to click this first, hold on. Wrong way. There we go. Within the education industry, it is common for schools to receive recognition for their outstanding achievement. The Lighthouse certification is a highly regarded standard set by Franklin Covey that is attainable by every Leader in Me school. As it is a significant benchmark, applying for the certification typically occurs 4 to 5 years after a school begins the Leader in Me process. The certification is evidence that the school has produced outstanding results in school and student outcomes by implementing the process with fidelity and excellence. It is also because of the extraordinary impact the schools have on staff, students, parents, and the greater community. Leader in Me unites students, staff, and families around a common goal, helps them prepare students for college, career, and life readiness skills that are necessary to thrive in today's ever-changing, fast-paced environment. Please join me tonight in congratulating Henry Elementary for renewing its Leader in Me Lighthouse School designation. Yes, we have Principal Jody Oliver and Assistant Principal Joey Kinnear. Congratulations, Henry Elementary School. The National School of Character Recognition Program was developed by Character.org, the National Character Education Organization. Schools must meet a rigorous process each year, aligning their character education practices with Character.org's 11 principal frameworks. They must provide data and artifacts demonstrating the effectiveness of their efforts. Trained evaluators from across the country assess each school. I can vouch for it is a very, very rigorous process. Once chosen to be recognized at the state level, schools are then invited to the national level evaluation. And now I would like for you to turn your attention to these beautiful screens. We have a video for you.
We're certified 5 years ago and worked really hard to get to that point. Did things like add the word caring to our mission statement, how we were developing both smart students but also kind students. Our students are curious, capable, caring, and confident learners. We don't want to isolate any one of those things as more important than the other, and all of those go into character education. And I feel like it's really important for us as the adults to help students both experience that kind of care but also experience doing that kind of caring. Days or weeks or months of service events. So if they see us doing it, they're more likely to do those things too. A lot of our kids participate in what's called like class meetings, and they can have a discussion, and it's rational and civil. In the world where we are right now, to think about doing this work, it feels more important than ever. And I've seen 18 schools go through this process and become certified as National Schools of Character. And it's more than an award. This is a caring community. This is a good place where people want to be. And that's not happenstance. We intentionally create that in the relationships that we build, in the way that we show we care for our students, for each other.
All right, that is Dr. Erin Schulte, who is on that video. She is unable to make it tonight. She is actually out of the country right now, and she is our coordinator of counseling and character education, and she also has her PhD in character education. I can't say it better than she did with those pictures and the videos of the kids and the staff members, and just how we treat people is critical. We can have all of the academic and the smarts that we have, but if we're not caring, then what are we? And so the character education pieces that we have in our district are absolutely outstanding, and this process going through is a very difficult process for these schools to get this recognition. So when I call the school's name, I'll have you just come up, shake the Board of Education's hand, and I'll just call the schools one after the other, and maybe stay up here for until all those schools are named. Just like for the students, this is big, so let's get a round of applause for each school, and we will be off here. So we do have 2 new schools that are new state and national schools of character. First, Claymont Elementary. Also a new school, not a new school to us, but a new school to character education and national and state recognition, Mason Ridge Elementary. So for schools, we have every 5 years, if you become a state or national school of character, every 5 years there's a recertification process, which is just like the certification process. It's very difficult and rigorous, and they have to go through that because it's not about just doing this once. It's not just about a reward or an award or a recognition. It's about this permeating through all that they do in their schools. So we have 4 schools that were recertified schools. We have Carmen Trails Elementary. We also have Green Trails Elementary. And Northeast Middle School. And Southwest Middle School. I want to thank the principals and assistant principals that made it tonight. I know there's busy days and long days and weeks. Hopefully, as you see, that the work that they're doing and the work that they're doing within their schools is just outstanding. So one more round of applause for our schools. We have one more character education recognition. Yes, as you make your way to your seats, that's fine. According to the American Association of School Administrators, the National District of Character is the designation given to a school system that has made intentional character education a priority through strategic plans, strong leadership, and involvement of all stakeholders, leading to widespread community support. It is my honor and pleasure to let everybody know that the Parkway School District has been recertified as a national and state character education, a district of character education. I will let our superintendent and as I leave the podium, I'm going to get a couple handshakes as well.
And next, I'd like to welcome Dr. Keith Marty and Paul Tandy to the podium.
You come up, Paul. I just have to say, I can't think of a better night to have a room full of folks here, because what a display of student achievement. Congratulations, students, National Merit winners. And then our schools, our work in character education, as was pointed out by Aaron and Greg, has been wonderful, and we have so much to be proud of. So I'm just glad the room is still full, because we have one more major recognition tonight. As you know, last week, Election Day, the Parkway School District passed a $265 million no tax rate increase bond. And you have to reflect a little bit on that achievement, because number one, we believe, and we've been told that it's the largest bond question or bond amount ever in the state of Missouri. And secondly, to have 77%, nearly 77% of the yes vote has just been amazing. So we're glad so many of you are in the room, because we have a special group of people we want to recognize tonight who put in hundreds of hours advocating and supporting this work. Before we introduce them, and as I introduce the gentleman behind me, there's 2 other people. There's a whole department, but the 2 people that lead the work internally, we as a district can provide information, and we work closely. They deserve a lot of credit too, so we shouldn't tonight forget their work. Paul Tandy has been successful and been in the district a long time and has worked many bonds. He's probably written a book on campaigns and bonds information. And Annie, where's Annie in the room? Annie Dickerson, where's Annie? There's Annie. Raise your hand, Annie. His sidekick, Director of Communications. And then the whole department needs to be recognized. Just do a marvelous job. And let's give them a round of applause. As superintendent, and I think the board would agree, we are so blessed to have so many people who are willing to put in hours of time, both in the district and outside the district. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul, who's going to tell us some more, and then bring the folks to the fourth frontier, who really deserve major congratulations tonight. And by the way, there are literally hundreds of people, but these were our major contributors and our leaders in the effort. Paul?
Well, thank you, Dr. Marty. This committee was truly special. I've never worked with a group that just seemed to just kind of click and gel like this group of leaders did. It was just a joy and a pleasure. And every time we do these campaigns, we have the opportunity to make new friends and meet new families. And it's just such a joy to get to know them. And it's a reminder of how fortunate we are in Parkway to have such wonderful families and people to work with, and we get the opportunity to educate their children, and it just truly is a pleasure for those of us who get the chance to work with these volunteers. Before I introduce I'm going to introduce each of the members of the committee, but before we do that, we'd like to ask the chairpersons to come up. We'd ask them if they'd be willing to speak maybe one more time. They've spoken a lot over the past year or year and a half, probably. But we'd like to have them come up and just share a few words from their perspective from the campaign, and I will reintroduce them a little bit later about what all they've done. But first, I'd like to ask Megan Heather and Michael Burtz to please come up.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dr. Marty. As with any community-wide initiative, it takes the support and generosity of many to achieve a collective effort like the passage of Prop S. We are grateful to the 47,901 Parkway residents that voted to support this bond measure. Election Day resulted in a historic approval rate of nearly 77%, the highest level of support for any Parkway bond issue in the last 30 years. We are grateful to the thousands of supporters who hosted yard signs, greeted voters at the polls, and spoke with their neighbors about why Prop S matters and how it positively impacts their child, their family, and their property values. We especially thank our fellow volunteers with the Citizens for the Parkway community, who worked tirelessly to bring the message of the importance of Prop S to their schools and neighborhoods. The talent, expertise, and dedication of this group of individuals was inspiring and kept us all working hard throughout the campaign. We would also like to lift up the excellent educational and informational outreach of the district, Paul Tandy, Annie Dickerson, and their team, along with Dr. Marty and the administrative leadership of the district and the Board of Education, who all engaged the public around Prop S with transparency and integrity. As we wrap up our roles with the Citizens Campaign, we finish where we began, as proud Parkway parents. The overwhelming community support for Prop S on November 8th was not the result of a campaign, but rather a vote of public trust and confidence in this district. This yes vote is the recognition of Parkway's long legacy of academic excellence and service to our community's students. Thank you again to all who worked in support of Prop S, and best wishes to the district as you all continue to work to ensure that all students are capable, curious, and confident learners who understand and respond to the challenges of an ever-changing world. Thanks to you all.
Thank you, Megan. And now I'd like to introduce, in alphabetical order, the members of the committee. And first, we have Lisa Berger, if she's here with Central Area. Is Lisa here? So Lisa was our Central Area Operations Coordinator. I'm going to now introduce CJ Campo. Is CJ here tonight? There he is. So CJ was our South Area Operations Coordinator, so all the operations in the south part of the district, and other things as other duties as assigned. I will say CJ stepped up and did so many things for the committee. And he has a couple of helpers with him, so thank you, CJ. They did work the polls. And also Derek Duncan. Derek's here. So Derek's a familiar face. He worked here for many years, and now he's acting in a volunteer capacity. Derek was the communications chair, so he was involved in developing all the materials and the logos and so forth, and yard signs and brochures and things like that. Is Mark Harder here? So Mark Harder helped do the fundraising and the vendor communications, reaching out to the vendors. I know Pam Hill is here. Pam? So Pam is a familiar face, former school board member and longtime volunteer. Pam served again this committee as the committee's secretary. She's done that before. She also worked in signage and a variety of tasks in signage, and then she was also just one of our networking people. She just has an amazing gift of networking and bringing people together. So thank you, Pam. Tim Hudson, Dr. Hudson, is here. Dr. Hudson used to be one of our curriculum coordinators in Parkway, and now working for us in a volunteer capacity. And Tim did employee outreach, and he also did speaking engagements for us. And I will say also, Tim was another one of those people who sometimes we'd just say, hey, we need this sort of thing done, and Tim would go, I can do that. And so Tim did a lot of other things too. So thank you, Tim. John Kilper is here. Yes, John Kilper. So John has served in a variety of volunteer capacities in Parkway, including the Alumni Association. And in this campaign, he served as the treasurer of the committee. So he got the lucky job of having his name on all of the materials that were printed throughout the community and keeping track of all the revenues and expenditures, and just did a fantastic job. Thank you, John. Mike McClellan, is Mike here? Oh, darn, Mike's not here. So Mike was signage and networking, and I wanted to tell a story about Mike because the day when everybody came to pick up their yard signs, they would pull in and they'd pick up their stack of 15 or so yard signs. But what nobody realized is that Mike was the one who went and figured out where they lived, and then he got where the homes of all the people who had signed up lived, and he developed a list for each person so that it was as close to their home as possible so they didn't have to drive too much. It was just magical how he put that together. So thanks, Mike McClellan, even though he's not here. Is Kaylin Ponch here? Kaylin was our North Area Operations Coordinator and handled everything in the North area. Next, I'd like to introduce Jean Sander. I know Jean is here. Jean, I want you to stand here for just a minute. So, Jean, I've known Jean for 20 plus years. She's served on many of these committees, bond committees, but also on just many, many Parkway committees over the years. She is phenomenal. I wonder if we could get Jean to serve on this committee one more time, because Jean just knows so many people. She can do so many things, and we're like, we could ask her to do just about anything. And so what she said, I think we pulled her in a little more than what she wanted. She got pretty engaged in it, but she ran the election day, and I'll tell you, she ran that thing so organized. I mean, all of our volunteers felt supported that day. You had it so organized so well, and we appreciate you very much. Before we let you walk away, I want to also, because I got another person, Stephen Shane, if you could come up and stand next to her. Now, I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll tell you why in a minute. So, Stephen, in addition to being just a phenomenal volunteer in the Central area and on PTO leadership, he was our Central Area Operations Coordinator, He was our coordinator for PTO leadership, so he did all the outreach and connections with the PTOs, which was a phenomenal amount of work, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. And Stephen also was one of our speakers. He did a number of speaking engagements for us in the community. So before they walk across, what I also want to mention to you all tonight, that I heard through the grapevine that each of them has a birthday today. So on the count of three, I want to wish them a happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. There you go. Now you may walk. Now you may walk. Is Jerry Smriga here? Jerry. So Jerry had a very important role in the campaign. He was our early childhood outreach coordinator. So he handled all the activities in our pre-K operations and did a phenomenal job. And he was also one of those people, too, that just chipped in a lot of areas. He had a lot of talents that we weren't aware of until we got him on the group, and we were like, wow. So thank you very much, Jerry. I don't think she's here, but Amanda Stanek needs to be mentioned. Amanda has served on a variety of our committees in Parkway, is a real leader, and Amanda headed up the fundraising committee, and it takes a lot of money to buy all those yard signs and brochures and the postage, and she just did a phenomenal job reaching out to our business leaders in the community and raising the funds needed for the committee to do its work. So thank you to Amanda. Is Lisa Tarter here? Lisa's not here. So Lisa was our West Area Operations Coordinator, so handled everything with the schools in the West area. Brooke Taylor, is Brooke here? So Brooke was our South Area Operations Coordinator. And I know she's not here, but I'm going to mention her name, and that's Dr. Chelsea Watson. Chelsea, as you know, former Deputy Superintendent here and now was volunteering, and she was the chair of our Gratitude Subcommittee. So, because Chelsea does such a good job of that, she made sure that every person who volunteered or donated on the campaign had a very personal thank you sent directly to them, and she wrote all of those. So thank you to Chelsea. Now, I'm going to end with our two co-chairs, and Michael and Megan. So when I know Dr. Marty, we were trying to think, who could we reach out to? And these are two people, again, we thought, gosh, could we get them to do this? And I think we took them one day, had a meeting, and the two of them just sort of, gelled, and they got to be such good friends. And what we learned is it was an accident, but it was brilliant because they just complemented each other so well. And I know they became good friends through this campaign. They worked tirelessly. I cannot even tell you how many hours they put in. I remember at one meeting one night, I think at a board meeting, I was asking them about their meeting schedule and about making some speaking engagements, and I forget which one of them pulled out their calendar. And for the next few weeks, it was every single night they were out, usually speaking to groups, making appearances, sharing the word about the bond, and it was just amazing amount of work. And Michael gave up his garage for probably, a month or two with all the yard signs. I mean, literally his garage was full of nothing but yard signs for a long time. So I just want to say thank you to them. They were a special group of co-chairs, and they made the committee a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of work, but we had a really good time. So Megan and Michael, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And Michael actually, 2 previous campaigns, he was the campaign treasurer, so he got to have his name on all the signs twice. So he's been through a lot of signs. The last thing I'd like to do, I know we have a few spouses in the room of some of the members of the committee, and even for those who aren't here, we need to recognize and thank the significant others who supported their spouse in this. So if you were a spouse of one of the committee members, I know Gretchen's here, and I think Jerry's here. Would you please stand for us? So that's Gretchen Birch and Jerry Sander. The thing that they're humble, but they worked a lot on this committee and a tremendous amount of work. And Jerry and Jean are just quite a tandem, I'm telling you. we really lucked out getting both of them again to do it, and they can move mountains. So anyway, thank you very much, and just thanks to the entire committee for a wonderful, wonderful campaign. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. We're going to take a brief recess in just a minute, but before we do, I just wanted to introduce one other person. You're all familiar with the Parkway Board of Education, but you may not realize we have a Missouri State Board of Education, and it operates very similarly to the Parkway Board of Education, but on a much grander scale. And we actually have a State Board of Education member here with us tonight. Carrie Casey, would you stand up and be recognized? We want to thank her for being here. She actually happened to be in town. We hosted a Missouri State Board of Education kind of roundtable last night right here in this room that was dedicated to talking about, having a discussion about the importance and value of actively working together to support teacher retention and growing our future generations of teachers to serve not only here in Parkway, but across the state of Missouri. So we thank her for her work and for the State Board being here in our region. So, but again, parents, staff members, administrators, thank you all so much for being here, for recognizing the important achievements of your students, of your schools, and obviously our community members who gave so much of their time and effort and talents to the Prop S campaign's passing. Thank you all very much. You are just amazing people, and we really appreciate everything that you do for our students and our community. Right now we'll take a little break, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. We will, Jerry, am I on? We will resume our meeting here. Next up, we have several additions, corrections, and/or modifications to the agenda. Those include 7.01, addendum to agenda item 11.10, approval of personnel items, and 7.02, addition of agenda item 11.24, approval of increased annual expenditure for Aruba equipment. Next up, we have public comments. And we have several of those. It's during this portion of our meeting that we provide an opportunity for citizen comments in an effort to maintain an open and respectful dialogue with our community. The public comment session is not the appropriate forum for addressing individually identifiable student and/or personnel matters. Therefore, due to privacy laws protecting students and employees, comments about these matters should not include personally identifiable information about particular students or employees. Members of the public, staff, and students are encouraged to utilize established policies and procedures for offering suggestions or addressing concerns and complaints prior to bringing the issue before the board. Please be mindful that the meetings of the board, including your statements at the podium, are broadcast and that you are responsible for any public comments you make. In lieu of a public statement, you may choose to submit your comments to the board in writing. Also, due to time constraints and the need to complete the primary responsibilities of our meeting agenda, we cannot respond during the meeting, so you will receive a response from us in writing. We are always available to have an open dialogue outside of our meetings and can be reached by email or phone using the contact information on the Parkway website. Tonight, we have 6 speakers. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make their remarks. Before making your remarks, please introduce yourself and state your affiliation to Parkway. And I will call on you in the order that you signed up originally. And I will give you a couple of people in advance notice, except for our first speaker, Mr. Wayne Hartman. He'll be followed by Jamie Dolby and Dr. Destiny Reddick.
My name's Wayne Hartman, community member. What I spoke about the last time I was here was student safety. You can put all the bulletproof glass, bulletproof doors, but drugs walk through the door. North County Elementary School, 6 days ago, reported 2 kids brought drugs in, gave them to 7 students, paramedics had to be called in. I'd like to know, is there any steps that Parkway is doing right now to keep them from coming through the door? Moving on, I got an email from President Todd back in October that said, members of the community have expressed to this board that SROs treat black students unfairly. I assumed when you did your presentation that it was all of the was due to the students. Everything was geared to students. But as I looked through this report, I found 4 questions that dealt with teachers/staff. And they have 5 answers to choose from. Strongly agree, agree. I'll consider those yes. They have neutral or no opinion, disagree, and strongly disagree. I'll consider those no. Question 1, I am happy there's an SRO at my school. 16%, 97 people said no. These are teachers and staff. Second question, I am happy there's a Parkway security department. 20%, 126 people said no. They just assume not have them in their buildings. Third, the other 2 questions, I'm putting them together, so that would be a 200% answer. If I knew about a dangerous situation in my school, would I let the SRO or Parkway Security know about it? 28.04%, 174 teachers/staff said no. These are your numbers, but you didn't put them in the presentation. So what does that tell you? That tells me you got a bunch of statistics. What you should have had, what I would have put, after each one of those questions, how did you come to that answer? You know, I agree. Okay, tell me why you agree. This way you got a little bit of a thought process to these teachers and staff. I mean, you put out a survey for the standard operating procedures for the SROs, but where's the standard operating procedures for the teachers? That's like, if I had a kid in these schools, I'm going, is that teacher that my kid's in school with, are they gonna report it or not? It's a concern for the parents. That's all I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Jamie Dolby.
Jamie Dolby. I'm a parent at Shenandoah Valley Elementary. I am a wife, a small business owner, a St. Louis County Commissioner, a strong political advocate. I've worked for some of the candidates on this board. I serve on several boards in our community, but my most important role is a mother. My husband and I are parents to a 4th grader at Shenandoah Valley, a school with this district that I had reservations on having my child attend because of the long-standing lack of diversity on this board and within that school. As active as I am in my community and in my son's life, yesterday I learned that I was not welcome to serve as an executive member of the PTO. And at this point, I question if I'm welcome to serve in any capacity with the PTO. Not because I didn't meet a qualification, not because I didn't have the time. I was not giving access to the opportunity to serve because the privilege and perceived power of one had a backdoor meeting with others that led to a decision to be made to not allow me to serve, to fill a position that they so desperately needed filling, and I stepped up to do. As a parent, and more than your average involved community member, I have been discriminated against, labeled, and demonized by the opinion of one person. There are many reasons why parents aren't involved, but now living through this traumatic experience, I wonder if the lack of diversity in this room and involvement in Parkway is an effort to silence a certain demographic. After all, the same PTO provided more funds for plastic cups to put on a fence to spell out our mascot than they did provide to the DEI committee. According to research, parent involvement in education is crucial. No matter their income or background, students with involved parents are more likely to have higher grades and test scores, attend school regularly, and have better social skills. With that being said, to the Parkway board members, what I'm here today to ask you is for change, for that all PTOs across your schools, starting with Shenandoah, receive proper diversity education and inclusive training, have standard bylaws, and the district that all meetings be open observation and all meetings shared with the community. Until that proper training is done, I ask that you provide a district liaison for all PTO meetings at that school. Until this ends and change is made, I will do what I can to use every connection and every outlet that I have to bring awareness to this matter and stop the bullying that provides a sense of lack of belonging caused by the parents and any other leadership that stands by and allows it to happen in this room and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Dr. Reddick. She'll be followed by Deborah Donnelly and Olivia Jones.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Destiny Reddick, and I am a parent of 2 students at Shenandoah Valley. I am here to support Jamie Dolby. I am an executive board member on the PTO after quitting last year because of the microaggressions and racism of the ladies that want to maintain their power and status quo and don't want different perspectives on the board. So I quit last year. Then they asked me to come back. They offered me a DEI role, diversity, equity, and inclusion role, and of course I accepted. I'm an educator of 17 years in the St. Louis region. I've worked in higher education and in St. Louis schools as a school leader, and so of course I was going to say yes and try to bring my perspective, and I felt like, oh, okay, maybe they've learned something and they're really ready to grow. It has been a traumatic experience. We had a meeting on Monday. I left. I've facilitated so many race and equity conversations in my career, and I've never left a conversation feeling totally broken. I had no sleep, and I'm traumatized because I was attacked for bringing up racial issues on the PTO, which is my job as the DEI chair. And I've been vilified as disrespectful, unprofessional for just bringing up 2 issues, one being that the DEI bylaws, I was asked to attribute to the bylaws, most of them was cut out after we all reviewed them as a team based on one person not liking the content, and I brought that up as an issue. And then the second thing was I brought up the fact that they blocked Jamie Dolby, who they had already agreed to put on the PTO, let me remind you or let you know. They had already agreed, and they decided to backtrack after learning that one person on the board felt uncomfortable based on someone that Jamie is supposed to know. So it was by association, and Jamie was blocked for no other reason but that. I do believe it was racial based on my experience as a Black woman, which has been minimized totally. I'm here to tell you that I'm not an angry Black woman, but I'm angry. I am angry, but I'm not that stereotype, and I have a reason to be angry. I moved to this district from a private school, and I researched this district, and I researched Shenandoah specifically and met with the previous principal who was on the equity committee for this district. That's why I even moved here. So to experience this as a very involved educator in this region, it is embarrassing, it is traumatic, and I'm reading this book called Black Fatigue, How Racism Erodes the Body, Mind, and Spirit, and I'm tired. Parkway is better than this. That's why I moved here, and I ask that this situation be addressed seriously before it causes more trauma for other Black parents. Look at all the diversity that was up here that represents our district and represents it well. Does everyone belong, or does just certain diversity belong, is what I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Deborah Donnelly.
Hi, I'm Deborah Donnelly, and I am a resident in the Central District. And I want to thank you all for your work on the discipline policies that you're going to vote on this evening. And I was able to talk a little bit with Dr. Matheson, and some of my misunderstandings were cleared up. So that's good. I still, after reading through each document that was on the board docs, I still have a few questions about SROs and the use of SROs in the district, and the use of detection dogs for random searches. And I know that they haven't been used lately. And why there's no video required, and or body camera is used for the police when they do these random searches. The discipline, it's come a long way. You guys have put in restorative conversations and restorative work, and we are so appreciative as a member of WeCan. We have advocated for that, and I know you're still on the journey. And the community needs that, and children need that. Also, and I know that that's been vetted through your attorneys and the MSBA, and that you had subcommittees working on this. But one thing that I assume that you're still working through and want to continue to bring up is SROs have no place in administering student discipline. That's up to administrators, principals, and school officials, not SROs. And the SROs training should not be recommended to attend, but they should be required to attend all restorative practice, all trauma-informed and bias training that is put on by our district. So I and that may not be in the discipline policy, but was in the SRO SOP document. As a member of We Can, one of our missions is to end school discipline in K through 5, and I know that that will be a continued conversation, but I always want to bring it up because it's in the best interest of children. And there was another school district that was able to accomplish this, Kirkwood, and I know that there's some Missouri statutes that you have to incorporate that need suspension, but on the whole, more training in the restorative practices, trauma-informed, and bias training will go a long way. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Next up is Olivia Jones, followed by Dana Zaffarani.
Hello, my name is Olivia Jones, and I am the Parkway parent who spoke here in May and in August about preventing child sexual abuse in Parkway. The new staff-student relations policy, provided to the district by a private nonprofit called MSBA and edited by Parkway administrators, will soon be coming to subcommittee for review. In its original form, the MSBA policy has a loophole that it calls educational purpose. This loophole undermines the intent of the policy, which is to create clear boundaries. I urge the subcommittee to edit the MSBA policy to meet the needs of Parkway. Before moving to vote on this new policy, please collaborate with Parkway staff who have direct contact with students. Send this policy to our teachers, counselors, coaches, nurses, librarians, bus drivers, and principals. Give them a window of time to provide feedback, to share their concerns and recommendations. Ask our staff, what resources do they need to be able to do their jobs while maintaining a safe space for students? For our coaches and other extracurricular program managers, what do they need to ensure that a single staff is not alone with a single student before and after school? Do they need administrative support for coordinating safer staffing ratios? Do they need workspaces that allow student engagement to be observable? Prop S was passed because our community values Parkway investing in infrastructure that keeps staff and students safe. If athletic spaces or classrooms need modification, we will have the ability to make those updates, thanks to the overwhelming support of our community. What concerns do our teachers have for how new boundaries might disrupt their normal ways of bonding with individual students, especially students who are at risk for academic failure and who would most benefit from a special teacher relationship? Do our teachers want new training opportunities? Reach out to our counseling department, who have professional expertise in boundary setting. Could they provide staff development about how to keep boundaries while nourishing a positive social emotional environment? A policy is only words on paper if it cannot be meaningfully incorporated into daily practice. Please partner with our highly qualified staff to develop a policy that they can take ownership of and feel good about implementing. While the primary goal is to reduce risk of child sexual abuse from school staff, we know that only a fraction of abuse occurs from schools. The vast majority of child sexual abuse happens in homes by our family and our friends. Boundaries are a tool for the good guys to use. Boundaries teach children what safe adult behavior looks like. Parkway's mission statement is to ensure all students are capable, curious, and confident learners who understand and respond to the challenges of an ever-changing world. Perhaps our students, knowing safe adult boundaries modeled for them by school staff, will be better equipped in the community to recognize when trusted adults in their lives make unsafe choices. Please collaborate with our Parkway Direct Care staff to close the MSBA loophole in the new policy for preventing child sexual abuse. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, we have Dana Zaffarani.
Hello all, my name is Dana Zaffarani. I come from Parkway West High School. I am a part of the Mental Health Awareness Club. I am the social media coordinator and the community outreach person. Tonight I am here to talk to you about mental health. Now, as a part of mental health, our job is to spread awareness about it and to help students get more access to mental health, but we don't know how to do that. We don't know who to go to besides our counselors and teachers. A few years ago, as a middle schooler in the sexual health unit, we were told to take a survey on mental health, if we were feeling suicidal, if we needed help. And once that survey was over, I was speaking to all my friends, and all they would say is that we didn't put we need help. they were all lying. They were saying that they needed help, but they really didn't say they needed it. How can we change that? How can we gain students' trust on mental health? In what ways can we introduce mental health to the younger kids in elementary school? Because we, as a goal for Mental Health Club, we are trying to introduce mental health and how to deal with mental health to younger generations to help them grow so they can deal with it and they already know how to deal with it in the future. And how can we make mental health help more accessible to students? And who can we reach out to besides our counselors? Thank you.
Okay, appreciate everyone's comments. Next up, may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for November 16th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next regular board meeting will take place on Wednesday, December 14th, 2022, beginning at 7 p.m. here at the Parkway Welcome Center. The mid-year board workshop will be held at Wednesday, December 7th, beginning at 5 p.m. at the Parkway Welcome Center. Next up, 10.02, board candidate filing. 3 director positions are open on the Parkway Board of Education, each for a 3-year term in the April 4th, 2023 election. Terms of Deborah Hopper, Tiffany Mapp Franklin, and Jeff Todd expire April 2023. I'm planning on returning. I don't know about the rest of you.
I will be putting in my notice for candidacy.
There you go. Devin?
And I will be running for re-election as well.
Okay. For all of us and anyone else new, filing begins on Tuesday, December 6th, 2022 at 8 a.m. and will continue during regular business hours Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. through December 22nd. Appointments to file, except on the first and last day of filing, are encouraged but not required. Filing will not occur on Friday, December 23rd or on Monday, December 26th. Candidate filing ends on December 27th, 2022 at 5 p.m. The Parkway Administrative Center will be open from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Tuesday, December 27th to accept filings. Interested and qualified persons may file in person at the Parkway Administrative Center, 455 Northwoods Mill Road, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63017. Filing will not occur on any days when the district offices are closed due to inclement weather, including the first and last day of filing. Per Parkway School District policy, candidates filing for a 3-year term shall be listed on the ballot in the order of filing. To make an appointment, or if you have any questions regarding candidate filing, please contact Nikki Stover at 314-415-8002 or nstover@parkwayschools.net. Next up, we have board and superintendent reports. So start down there with Matt.
All right. A lot has happened since the last board meeting, but I'll let you guys cover a lot of it too, but there's 2 things. First off, the Chesterfield TIF. I do want to thank the administration and all the team here at Parkway to put together the informational session they had this afternoon discussing the proposed development of the Chesterfield Mall and the fact that the way it is currently financed, it would be a detriment to the Parkway in multiple ways over multiple years and in millions of dollars. So I do think people need to come informed. I do believe that session this afternoon was recorded, so you can go back on the website and watch it again. But there will be a vote on Monday that could have a significant impact, not just on the area that could be with the new possible students coming into that area, but for the whole district. So while we support the development, the financing mechanism they're using right now is not beneficial in any way to Parkway School District. So my -1, then on the positive, Proposition S, I would just say it was fun staying at the polls. I enjoy doing it for various candidates, and especially for the Prop S, it was fun just to get the reaction from the voters coming in. So I do appreciate all the voters that were out there voting and supporting Parkway. And I got to give extra thanks to Michael and Megan because it was just so organized. Giving out the signs the night before, they had every sign lined up, how many you're going to have, the order you're going to give them out, had the little sticks and the signs ready to go. And then the day of, when you're actually at the polls, they had bags all ready to go. It was probably the best experience I've had volunteering for a candidate or an issue ever. So that was wonderful, and it kind of shows, again, the community support we have for Prop S, and now the future we have, having that in place to secure both not only maintenance of our buildings, but the additional pieces that we're actually bringing in with that proposition. So thanks to them again, if they're not here.
Just to piggyback off that, the Citizens for Parkway, I mean, it was an amazing group. My kids, every time they saw a sign, would just yell out "Yes on S," and they would tell anybody that wanted to listen. It was great being at the polls, saw people I haven't seen in a while. The turnout was absolutely wonderful. Few things I did on October 24th. I attended the Day of Service at Parkway Central. It's something I did as a student at Parkway Central with the Special Olympics soccer tournament. It has grown exponentially in 20 years. It was an absolutely amazing experience to see all of the students having a great time and giving back to the community. We all attended the MSBA annual conference. It was obviously my first conference. It was very enlightening in many ways. One thing I really got out of it is that Parkway is a great district and really it really knows what's going on and what we need to do to get better. I'll let some of the others as well. I don't want to steal everything about the MSBA conference. So, and that was really, as well as the TIF, we did have a student roundtable earlier today to discuss mental health with students. These kids were very forthcoming, honest, great conversation. I look forward to having further conversations on those topics in weeks and months to come.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Yeah, I guess I'll jump right into the Missouri School Board Association annual meeting in Kansas City. Like Jeffrey and Tiffany, I'm a new board member, so this is my first time to get a chance to go. And I was impressed on several fronts. In my professional life, I attend conferences and meetings, but being in such a group where there was so much sort of altruism, where everybody who was there across the state seemed to have a true and authentic goal of helping students, advancing students' interests. I attended a few breakout sessions. One was on balancing academics and mental health as children strive to try to do better and better and compete with one another, and balancing the mental health risks that they're facing, which I thought that was very helpful, and that's a subject that we take very seriously here at Parkway. Also one on leading with equity, which is an important subject for all of us. One that I know that many of my fellow board members take very seriously, and one that we'll continue to take seriously. And then helping to cultivate parent advocacy. I think all of us in Parkway know that public schools are very important for our society in general, and I think it's important for us to spread that word when we get the chance. The last thing I'd say about our attendance at the annual meeting, the thing that impressed me and gave me a sense of pride for our district, is every single one of our board members attended. And as I kind of looked around and saw other folks from the St. Louis area or across the state, that was not often the case. Many boards would send 2 or 3 people, but we sent all of us, and it was a great way to build camaraderie and a sense of team amongst the board. So it was wonderful.
Thanks, Rob. So the past month, there's been a lot that's gone on. Before I get into the MSBA conference that we attended, I also, I guess back in October, towards the end of October, we also all attended the interest-based bargaining training in preparation for the upcoming Parkway and PNEA negotiations. I thought this was a really good training for especially as probably newer board members, just to understand the process of the negotiations that go on between the district and our teachers union. So that was a really great opportunity to be able to attend that. I also attended our first subcommittee for the year. This was for student services. We're actually going to get a couple of reports later today regarding that information from that meeting on the social work targeted review and the district counselor program review. So that was also good. I was excited to finally get involved with one of the subcommittees, and I'm looking forward to continuing those meetings. And then, as we talked about with the MSBA conference, that was an amazing conference. It was probably one of the best conferences that I've attended in my recent history. I really enjoyed the fact that we were all able to attend, and I got a chance to get to know each of the board members a lot better. Oftentimes we really meet only in this situation. So it was a really good opportunity to really get to know all of the board members and just be able to kind of socialize a little bit together as well. I also attended my mandatory in-person training. That was an 8-hour in-person training. I attended that on Thursday, which was, I guess that was technically the first day of the conference, is that correct? It was a great training. The other 10.5 hours of training that we have to have is online, which is also really good online training. I was actually very surprised at how they built their modules for the online, because when you think 10.5 hours, that's a lot, but they broke it down into such manageable pieces that they provided a lot of information, and they sent us home with this nice big binder. So I'll be flipping through that. So I also attended several sessions on Friday and Saturday. The main ones that I attended were, what was it? Equity and Gifted Education. That was a little bit not what I was wanting out of that, but I thought it allowed me to see what we at Parkway are already doing compared to other districts in the state. So I was really proud to see that, well, we're already doing all this. I was hoping to get some more information on how we could maybe elevate what we're doing to make sure that we are, especially in our high schools, achieving the goal of having more students that are normally underrepresented in our AP and honors classes. And then another session I attended was student representation on the board. This was a really good session where it was actually brought to us by a student that was on a board in the District of Washington, which is a much smaller district. But because we heard it from his perspective, I thought it added so much more value to that particular session, and I would love to figure out how we could do something similar here in Parkway. And then the last session that I attended was elevating and supporting the teaching profession. I believe Jeff and Dr. Marty had a roundtable yesterday that was probably very much in line with this session regarding teacher retention and the teacher shortages, and really making sure that our teachers feel valued so that they will continue to want to stay in this profession, and also to have their children or other students come into this profession. One of the things that the session pointed out was that, I want to make sure I get this note right, 69% of parents, even parents who are teachers, would not recommend their children to go into teaching. That is a horrible statistic right now. And we as a society really have to figure out how we can value our teachers so that we can bring in the next generation. So those are the things that has happened this month. Oh, like Jeffrey also mentioned, we just came from a wonderful student roundtable about mental health or mental wellness that our students were able to tell to us about. I thought it was amazing. A lot of the issues that are, or challenges that our students are facing, I'm seeing right at home. I have a high schooler, so I see that the pressures that they put on themselves to be high achievers in this district so that they can be successful in the world. And we want to make sure that, you know, we are creating these curious, capable, confident students, but we also want to make sure that their whole well-being is taken care of so that they can be successful as a whole person and not just in that way that they might see success. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry, I talked a lot today.
I don't have anywhere to be. When people find out that I'm on a school board, the usual first question I get is, why? And I always explain, you know, it's an important role and it's meaningful. And I always, I do concede that some meetings are good and some meetings are hard. And I bring this up because this is a particularly hard meeting. Cortelia made us these cookies. And I really want to eat this cookie right now, but I feel like I shouldn't be doing that during the middle of a board meeting. But we'll get through this, but thank you. This month, I can't believe I'm the first person to talk about Veterans Day, but Friday was Veterans Day, and I know that it used to be that schools were off for Veterans Day, and at some point we made the decision to have school but honor veterans, which I think is a really meaningful thing to do, and certainly better than letting kids stay at home and play on their iPads. And I attended the Veterans Day ceremony at my children's school at Belle Reve, and found it to be, well, first of all, going to an elementary school, I'd never stop being amazed by watching groups of elementary school children quietly and orderly walk to where they're supposed to go and then sit where they're supposed to be and pay attention. It just blows my mind every time. It's so impressive. But and the Veterans Day ceremony was no different. The kids were really engaged. You could tell it really meant a great deal to the veterans that were honored. And it was really a meaningful thing to be able to go and witness. And in fact, the custodian of my kid's school is a veteran, and in the slideshow when his name came up and all the kids were cheering for him, you could tell it really meant a lot to him. So it was wonderful to take part in that. At the school board conference, which again, all 7 of us attended, which was the first time in my tenure that that's happened, and I'll echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Some of the sessions are better than others, but what's really meaningful to me is to spend time with the 6 people I serve with and be able to have individual conversations, get to know each other better. And, we all kind of come at this position from a different place, and we have our own sort of perspectives. And, as we sit here in these meetings, perhaps there's not usually the opportunity to share that and to learn where other people are coming from, but I think it's helpful for us to be able to respect and know where each others are coming from so that we can work together and accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. And every year we draw straws for who has to drive Dr. Marty home from the conference, which this year turned out to be Rob and me, and that's always a treat too, to spend some time in the car. And was able to host, this doesn't really count as a school board activity, but I was able to bring Dr. Marty to his first Mizzou football game, which they lost in devastating fashion, so I was able to welcome him to our little fraternity of misery there in Columbia. So, Debbie?
Wow, tough follow-up. Well, first of all, I just want to, we had our recognition tonight for Prop S, and I just want to thank our entire community for voting yes on us, and that money is going to go a long way to help us make major improvements that are not desperately, but very much needed within our schools, particularly our locker rooms, our pools, technology, making our playgrounds ADA accessible for all. So this money is going to do tremendous things to help this district and continuing to move forward in our future. Other activities that I participate in, other than working at the polls also, which was wonderful, on October the 20th, Cortelia Lucas chaired our multicultural parent evening, and that was a wonderful event to go to, which meets monthly. This is an opportunity for parents who are of a multicultural, diverse backgrounds to come together and to socialize and to learn some additional information that helps to benefit their family. So that was a nice event to attend. On the next day, on October 21, our Communications Advisory Committee met, and we welcomed several new members to that. So that was very well attended, and we look forward to continuing with our communications with these particular committee that Paul Tandy also helps to chair. Along with Jeffrey Spector on October 24th, I attended Central High School Special Olympics and Day of Service. And I have to say, too, that is just a heartwarming day. To see students helping each other, and this is with the Special Olympics, seeing these kids so excited to run the track and to play games and to just be together and having their buddy to help them to maneuver all of the logistics of the games and the track and all of that. So wonderful, wonderful fun day. On October 29th, I joined a few of our Board members and Dr. Marty, our Parkway Alumni Association hosted a golf scramble at Forest Park Golf Course, and Dr. Matheson and I and Dr. Marty and several, Jeffrey Spector, Rob, Kevin, we were all there. So it was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful day to enjoy doing fundraising for our Alumni Association. And then, as others have mentioned, I also attended the MSBA conference. Well, this was my second or third conference, and I have to say, I think this was one of the better ones. I think maybe, too, because we haven't done anything like this for so long, so we didn't have conference burnout. And I particularly enjoy the opportunity to just have conversations with other board members around the state. We do not get many opportunities to do that. So I did attend our Region 7 meeting, which was at 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning. But that was an opportunity to talk with our other board members within some of our immediate areas, St. Charles County, Jefferson County, and then some of the St. Louis County districts, to talk about things related to, on the heels of some of the tragedies that have occurred lately with our student violent issues that have occurred recently. So we talked about that and what are we doing with that. We talked about community engagement, and we also talked about opportunities to enhance ways to be able to have continued communication with other board members throughout our state. So I very much enjoyed attending that. I also attended a session titled Education Without Barriers. This was an opportunity to learn about students who have dropped out of school or who have decided not to continue their high school education. How can we bring them back? And so this was a wonderful presentation, and that kind of talks about that kind of program, what they do to help kids get back. And it's really a one-on-one, even going to the home to try to get the student back. They actually meet on a college campus, which takes them away from the high school setting because some of these students end up being a little bit older. And so it provides them an opportunity to be more of an adult-like on a college campus so that they can conclude their high school education. I also attended student representation on a board. We know that student voice is very important, and this was a wonderful opportunity to hear about how another school district pulls students in onto providing information with their school board. I also attended an ethics program that the Missouri Ethics Commission put on, which is always wonderful to be reminded of the various different laws that we need to be abiding by and the ethical things that school boards need to abide by. I also attended a program about superintendent and board self-evaluations. As you know, one of our big responsibilities on being on the Board of Education is evaluating the superintendent. And so there has been some information and things that are being looked at from MSBA to develop a superintendent evaluation, and so there was conversation about that. And then also about board self-evaluations, and our school board has been doing that the last several years. So there's additional information pertaining to that. I also attended a program about community engagement and how we can better involve our community and how we might be able to improve different ways of engaging our community. So this particular school district takes a very different approach by enlisting 20 community members. It's a smaller school district. They bring on like 20 community members. They have a 6-week session where these individuals come and actually sit down and talk about the whole school district and their operations, and then actually do building tours. So that's how they approach that. I would also say that there was vendor exhibits as well as student exhibits, which were wonderful to see, and we got some ideas from different vendors that we might be able to utilize in the future here at Parkway. And then seeing what some of the students are doing throughout the state and all the different virtual things that they were doing. It was a lot of fun to see all their different talents. And I think the highlight of Saturday night banquet was our keynote speaker, Jackie Joyner-Kersey. She was a phenomenal speaker. If you've never heard her talk in person, it was so wonderful. So she was very inspiring, talked about her hardships growing up, and then her successes as being an Olympic champion. So it was just a wonderful experience. So kudos to MSBA for being able to get her and be one of our keynote speakers. All in all, I just really had a valuable time, and with some 3 new board members, it was a wonderful opportunity for us to have dinner together and to socialize and to get to know each other better as well. So appreciate the time that we had together. It was very valuable.
As you can hear, we've not really been doing a whole lot of anything lately. I'd love to just say ditto, because I've got a list that's pretty much been covered. I'll reiterate a couple things. But first, last month I attended the secondary all-district vocal performance with Dr. Marty, and we have some amazing kids in this district, some amazing artists who just a few months into the school year sound like they should be, on a New York stage somewhere. Just a great evening. The Student Services Subcommittee has been mentioned. I won't steal any thunder from anyone that's going to present on that. I too got a lot out of the MSBA conference. I was telling somebody the other day, I go to these things, and a lot of times some of these sessions are repeat for me that I've been going the last few years, but I still learn stuff. I still get stuff out of them, and I hear different perspectives that I didn't hear the last time, and I always find that very valuable. And I too certainly appreciated getting to spend a little quality time with board members that I didn't know as well, and now I do even better. And I even experienced the same thing. I had jury duty last week with Dr. Gritch, one of our assistant principals, and we weren't in a school setting, and we just talked about our kids and life and stuff. So it's nice to get to know people on that level. I attended like Kevin, a Veterans Day assembly. I was at Barrett's last week, and they do an amazing job. I typically choose that one as one of the ones I go to because it's the closest school to my office, and I can squeeze out for an hour. And it's one of those I just didn't want to leave. It culminated, the whole assembly culminated with veterans going on a parade throughout the school, with patriotic music playing, and some of these guys just had tears in their eyes. They were amazed, 40 of them, men and women that have served all over the country, all over the world, and just the recognition and respect that they get from some of our youngest community members was neat to see. Last weekend, I got to attend the Parkway Alumni Association Hall of Fame, where we inducted 20 people from the last 2 classes. We couldn't do it in 2020. Some amazing people have graduated from Parkway and gone on to do some incredible things throughout the world, and we honored several of them this past Saturday. And it was somebody told me, usually we ask them to say a couple words about how they've achieved their success and what they've done with their lives and everything, and everybody comes back to that teacher that made an impact on them. That coach, whoever it was that inspired them and stuck with them. And for some of them, they had those people there in the room. These people have been out of school for many, many years, and they still keep in touch with that one special teacher. And so that's always astounding and amazing to see. And then I'd just like to mention that again, we talked about it already, but the student roundtable that we had before this meeting, we met with about 20 students from representing all the high schools, including Fern Ridge. And just as I said to the students, when I was a kid, we didn't have anything like this. We didn't talk about our mental health, our state of mind, or anything like that. It wasn't something you talked about. It wasn't, even when I was a young adult, it wasn't something that we talked about with my peers. And to be able to have these kinds of conversations with students, with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. I remember when I was that age, I didn't want to talk about anything with anybody. But I was just amazed. And then, and Dana, and I'm sorry she's already left the room, but our last speaker mentioned that Parkway West has a mental health awareness club, and we heard about it from one of the students that we met with earlier, and that just really surprised me. I didn't even know we had it. But here there's a group of students that got together and said, hey, we need to talk about this. Let's start a club. So I thought that was pretty cool. So hopefully that's something that the rest of our schools are talking about or considering or maybe already doing. I hope so. All in all, it's been a great last busy but wonderful month since our last meeting, and we capped it off with an amazing bond win. So pretty good month.
Definitely ditto. I just want to say I'm very proud of being able to see all the board members at MSBA and to see you developing relationships and getting to know one of you better. It's like watching, as a former educator, it's fun to watch your class kind of come together. Sound like an old man, don't I? But it was a great conference, and thanks for all your summation. I will just say that to your point about the Saturday Night Alumni Association Hall of Fame, it is one of those events I always say is one of the highlights of the year because it comes back to people who have found something in Parkway, and so we're not always seeing people that were the top students academically, but they found something through Parkway, a hobby, something that led them to a passion. That's often what we're hearing, and like Jeff said, it's usually a teacher, coach, or someone who really made a difference in their life. It's just wonderful stories. Over the weekend, we did have something nobody reported on, but I'm sure some of you did know about it, but our Central High School boys swim team won the state boys swimming championship. And yeah, so I was able to cover up with something. But one thing to note is, while they won, and they won big, Parkway West was third and Parkway South was fifth in Class 1, and North scored points a little bit farther down. So Parkway really had a presence at the swim meet. And to our credit, we're going to be working on pools, right, in the district, because we have a wonderful swimming program, boys and girls. Also, I'll just mention that we have got some wonderful news. McKelvey Primary, which a lot of us have visited, the new McKelvey Primary, which is virtually a new school, just won a major design award, and we'll be talking more about that. And by the way, swim team will be honored in December, as we'll honor our full sports teams. And then I'll just say that Veterans Day, you talked about specific schools, but we had Veterans Day, a lot of the team members from SAT. I was out of town at a conference, but a lot of the team members were out and about, and we didn't hit them all, but really a salute to our schools for honoring veterans. Many of them, bring parents, grandparents, neighbors. It's just a wonderful way to really honor well-deserving people, our veterans. So it's, like we said, it's been very, very busy. I, too, want to just compliment Carrie Casey for being here tonight, and she was here last night. That was a great discussion last night, and one that we in Parkway want to continually understand. And we were able last night, Margie Van Even was here, Paul Kandig from the department, who are working very hard on continuing this discussion alive. And I will say I'm very proud of our Grow Your Own, because that's there's many different factors here, but we have got to start talking, to Tiffany's point, we've got to start changing the attitude about going into teaching. And it's not just pay, there's other factors, but we've got to get young people interested in the profession, or we're going to be in big trouble in this country, because we need quality people teaching our children. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I actually had one thing I did forget to mention. Today is National Education Support Professionals Day. So thank you to all the people who are not necessarily teachers or administrators, all the people like Nikki and a bunch of other people who support everybody else in getting the job done to support and educate our students. So next up, we have our consent agenda. It's about an average length. We've all had an opportunity to review it. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the November 16th, 2022 board materials?
So moved.
Second. Is there anything to be pulled to action or closed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, we have the approval of audit and financial statements from June 30th, 2022. So I'd like to welcome Brian Whittle, our Director of Finance.
All right, well, thank you for having me. I'm really just here to introduce Brian Wirtz, our auditor with KEB. We do take a lot of pride in the financial statements. They're clean once again. It's not just, I know you hear financial statements, you think finance. Well, there's a second report in there too. It's called Federal and State, probably on the PDF, but it's a schedule of selected statistics, and it's a schedule of our expenditure of federal awards or our grants. That's truly a whole district-wide. I mean, I could look at Kevin Beckner and his team do a lot of work with grants, Bill Bass in particular. I don't think without him we wouldn't have been able to pass it. I'm sure Bogus's team probably shudders when they see an email from me that says audit request, because they get a lot, but they answer it on time. We take a lot of pride. We leave our financial system. We give the auditors full view access rights. That means they could pull up any transaction in the past year and look it up on their own accord. You know, there's transparency, but I'll be honest with you, it saves me hours and times pulling invoices for them because they can just look it up themselves. But I guess enough about that, and I'll introduce Brian, KEB.
Do we have a PowerPoint?
Oh, there is.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Down goes that way? All right, great. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Brian Wirtz. I'm a partner with Kerber Breckle, and we're the independent auditors for the school district. Before I get into this, I'd just kind of like to discuss an overview of the financial statements and what we're kind of talking about tonight. What's in the packet, as Brian discussed, in page, it's Roman numeral 15, so XV, there's a certificate of excellence in financial reporting that is issued by ASBO, which is, you know, the district basically submits the financial statements and they review them, and then they give this certificate of financial reporting, which means that the financial statements from a governmental standpoint are presented, you know, in a way that is excellent, I guess. And then pages 4 through 16 is the MD&A, which is the management's discussion and analysis. And that's it's unaudited because it's not financial in nature. It's a written document, which management's analysis of the 2022 results and the expectations for the future of the district. So it's an important part of the financial statements. Then there's two sets of financial statements. As auditors, that's always a joke. Where's the other set of financial statements? But there are actually two sets of financial statements in this document. One is the government-wide financial statements that are presented on the full accrual basis of accounting, and then there's the fund financial statements that are presented on the modified accrual basis of accounting, and then there's reconciliations between the two. And then obviously the notes to the financial statements are an integral part of the financial statements, and then there's some supplementary information in there as well, as like budget to actual by fund and some statistics and that sort of thing that are required by a CAFR. So I don't know if anybody noticed or not, but if you did, you're really paying attention that the audit opinion changed this year. Sort of how it's laid out. I don't really usually like the changes we make as accountants because I think we make our job worse than it needs to be. But I thought this one was pretty good because it really talks about like what each other's responsibilities are. And it starts out as the opinion that we're giving, which is the most important part. You know, obviously we're given an unmodified opinion. But then it talks about what each other's responsibilities are when it comes to an audit, and especially when it came to our responsibilities, we've really expanded that. What is our responsibilities? But so it's management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements in accordance with GAAP and design and implement a maintenance of internal controls so that the financial statements are not materially misstated due to error or fraud. Okay, which is very important. And it's also their responsibility to determine the basis of accounting that should be used to present the financial statements, which we talked about. They use the accrual basis of accounting and the modified accrual basis of accounting. It's then our responsibility, as it looks at the opinion, is to ensure that the financial statements are free of material misstatement on with reasonable assurance, because we can't give absolute assurance because we're not reviewing 100% of the transactions. So the wording in the opinion is we're giving reasonable assurance, which is a high level of assurance, but it's not absolute. The audit is performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and uniform guidance as it relates to federal programs. There's also a new paragraph or a part of the opinion that talks more about like when we're performing the audit, what we have to do. So we have to exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism when we do an audit. Identify where we think there are risks that could develop a material misstatement in the financial statement and then design audit procedures to address those risks. We're required to obtain an understanding of the internal controls of the district, but not to give an opinion on the internal controls. And we'll talk about what that, any weaknesses a little bit later. But I think it's important that in an audit, we're not giving an opinion on the internal controls of the district. We're just getting an understanding. And if there's a weakness that comes to our attention, we would bring that to your attention. Evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used. And then also to determine that the entity can last as a going concern, which is basically 1 year. So we're required to do that as well. We did give an unmodified opinion this year, which means that based on our audit and the procedures, we feel that the financial statements are reasonably stated in accordance with the basis of accounting used by the district. We did talk a little bit about internal controls. In our process of reviewing the internal controls, if anything come to our knowledge that might be a material weakness, we'd have to disclose that to you. And a material weakness is basically, the definition is there's a weakness in the controls that would make it reasonably possible that there would be a material misstatement in the financial statements that would go undetected. So we're happy to report there were no material weaknesses noted. And then when we're reviewing compliance with laws and regulations, if there was any non-compliance, we'd have to make you aware of that as well, and there was no instances noted on that as well. The federal programs, the district is considered a low-risk auditee, so we only have to look at 25% of the federal programs. This year we tested the Educational Stabilization Fund, gave an unmodified opinion on that. Internal controls over the major programs, because that's another set of internal controls. There's financial reporting, and there's internal controls as it relates to federal programs. No weaknesses noted on that as well. And then there was nothing to be required to be reported to you under uniform guidance. As Brian noted earlier, as it relates to Missouri laws and regulations, we do have another report that talks about budgetary and disbursement procedures, accurate disclosure of attendance records, and accurate disclosure of transportation records. That part of the engagement is done in accordance with attestation standards issued by the AICPA, and again, we gave an unmodified opinion on that as well. Professional standards require that we commute the following to you. Significant accounting policies are described in Note A. As I said before, the accrual basis of accounting is used for the government-wide financial statements, and the modified accrual basis is used for the fund financial statements. There are significant estimates in these financial statements, which we're required to make you aware of. The biggest estimates in these is the debt pension liability and the OPEB liability. So it's the district's proportionate share of the liability for the underfunding of the pension liability. There were no transactions that lacked authoritative guidance. The financial statement disclosure is neutral, consistent, and clear. I argue with that one a little bit because the pension footnote's about 10 pages long. And if you can understand that, I'm not sure it's real clear, but it is consistent. We encountered no difficulties in performing our audit, and we had no disagreements with management in performing our audit. The significant risks that are always required in an audit are, one, management override of controls. That's required. We have to address that risk on every audit that we do, because they could do that, and that basically means they can manipulate the financial statements in a way to make them better. And the other one that we always have to look at is improper revenue recognition. For a district, that one's easy to get around because we can confirm so much of the revenue between property taxes and federal and state programs and all that stuff. So that's really not a big deal, but those two, we always have to look at those two risks. We have complied with all relevant ethical requirements regarding independence. And independence standards as it relates to governmental audits are more strict than a for-profit entity. So we are required also to go through and look at everything that we do for the district that might not be related to the audit itself. For example, preparing the financial statements, that could be a risk that we have to identify and make sure that our independence hasn't been impaired for any of those things that we do. We did obtain a representation letter that was dated November the 7th, which is the date that the financial statements have been approved by management and ready to be issued. The financial statements are complete and accurate. All material information has been disclosed to us, the auditors, and management's consultations had no other consultations with any other independent accountants that we're aware of. If they had some conversations with some other independent accountants, we'd have to make you aware of that as well. Always appreciate the assistance. This is November the 7th. It's a 100 and some odd page document. I mean, it's a lot of information, a lot of hard work. To be done this quickly and presented to this financial statement is, kudos to Brian and Patty and the rest of the staff to help us get to this point. So we really appreciate their efforts on that. This is the people that did the audit. The three on the right are the people that did all the work. I just tell you what they did. That's my job. So, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'll just say thank you. We appreciate your diligence and thoroughness and conducting the audit so quickly and so thoroughly. We already hold Brian and Patty and their team in very high regard, and we are appreciative to have the reassurance that your audit provides us that's accurate. So we appreciate it.
Yes, we're very, very proud of the fact that we can report every year to our public, because we take this very, very seriously, that we've had, I guess the term is clean audit, which
Correct.
means a very positive audit. And I too want to congratulate Brian, Patty, and their whole department. It's never easy to get ready for this business. While this is going on, they're also through the spring and summer months and getting ready for a lot of other things. So it's a busy time. But thank you for all your support and work. We really appreciate the partnership.
Glad to do it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. So hearing all that, may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 audited financial statements as presented in the November 16th, 2022 board meeting materials?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Nikki.
Mrs. Hopper?
Yes.
Ms. Mapp Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Reedy?
Yes.
Mr. Schindler?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Spector?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We have no policy review tonight, so next up we have a couple of reports. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Sherry Magaja, Director of Social Emotional Support Services, and Dr. Greg Matheson, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Todd, Vice President Hopper, board members, Dr. Marty, and Ms. Stover. I have the pleasure tonight, we actually have, I know on the agenda we have two different targeted reviews, but two members of our student services team are here tonight to talk through our social work targeted review as well as our district counselor targeted review, and that's with Mrs. Sherry Magaja and Dr. Cartilia Lucas. I just want to take an opportunity before they come up here. Both Sherry and Cartilia have done an outstanding job. This is their first year in these roles, and they've taken on quite a bit on these roles and have done a remarkable job. To come in as new members into our team and to tackle a targeted review, working with their teams and social workers and district counselors is no short and easy task, but they are up to it and trying to do everything that we can to meet our mission as a district. So I wanted to say, before they come up here, what a wonderful job that they are doing, and I know they have a lot to present tonight and work that they're going to continue to do to make our department and our district better and stronger for our kids. So, and here we have Mrs. Sherry Magaja.
President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Marty, and Ms. Stover, thank you for the opportunity to come this evening and continue the conversation around mental health. So tonight we're going to take a look at the Student Services Social Work Targeted Review, and I think it's most important for us to begin by asking how are the children and how are they doing, and what we know nationally is that our students are really struggling, is what we heard tonight from our students, and that they articulated some of their strengths but also some of their challenges, knowing that nationally there has been a significant increase in the mental challenges of our students, recognizing that many of them have maybe what we would consider to be psychological immunity. They have the ability to be persistent and have the support systems in order to be healthy. And there are some students that they do not have that. And so we then need to address and provide them the services that they need in order for them to be well. We also just recognize that there are groups of students who are at greater risks, and that's what our national data is telling us. It's telling us that students who had a previous diagnosis, those that had previous trauma in their life, who had insecurities of potentially like food insecurity or housing or a major daily disruption, that they're at greater risk for a mental health diagnosis. We also just recognize and take into consideration that in October of 2021, the American Academy of Pediatrics declared a national emergency for our children and adolescents for mental health. And just to increase that awareness, we know that even prior to COVID, the services that are needed for our children, we struggle to find them access. And so since COVID, we know then now our children, we're struggling to find them. There's a shortage, and significantly around pediatric psychiatry. And so this is just it's an area that we need to focus on, and I'm thankful to be part of Parkway School District that prior to COVID, it was a priority. And so you, as a board, helped us put into place staff members that really helped and do help each day our children be well and be healthy. And so a part of our Parkway Mental Health team that provides services to our general education students consists of school counselors, district counselors, social workers, care coordinators, and social emotional behaviorists. Tonight, we're going to talk about social workers specifically, but I wanted you to just recognize that we have a wealth of people and highly qualified people to help our children. And just so that you have a face to their title, I'm honored and very grateful to be able to work with some of the most incredibly dedicated group of people that I have in my career. This is the team of social emotional behaviorists, social workers, and care coordinators that I get to lead. So Parkway social workers specifically, there are 9 of them in our district, and they're shared amongst all of the schools. And if you think about their job responsibilities, it's as though social work, as you know it, they help provide psychological assessments to determine the services that students need, and then provide them with those services, whether it's individual psychotherapy, it would be group, direct service, or crisis intervention. They also serve on multidisciplinary teams to address the needs of students, and they work closely with counselors, administrators, parents, and the community to really help facilitate just services for students, especially if they're in crisis, and provide stability to their families. So the timeline for the social work evaluation, for the targeted review, it started in October, and we began with a program planning committee, it consisted of 12 stakeholders from multidisciplinary areas of our district, and they then developed main topic areas and guiding questions. I then, this month, talked, as you spoke about, with the subcommittee, and you provided feedback and answered questions, and that was this month. So now I'm here to present the information to you, and then throughout the months of November through March and April, we'll utilize historical data, comparison of what's successful nationally and within our community for strong mental health services, and just analyzing data of how the social work role is working. And then in February, we'll complete those findings, come back to you with a report, and then in the summer and the fall, we'll go ahead and actualize those findings. The planning committee, they came up with 6 main topic areas and then had guiding questions. So just to break that up, we'll start with the first 3. They consist of mission, vision, and purpose, organizational structure, values, and ethics. And based on those main topic areas, they then had the guiding questions for each. Mission, vision, and purpose for our social work role was how does the social workers meet the actual demands of the mental health needs within Parkway? So we're going to look at that and see how the mission, vision, and purpose of Parkway aligns with the social work services. The organizational structure asks how do the roles and responsibilities of social workers align or overlap with other positions in Parkway, such as care coordinators, social emotional behaviorists. So is there overlap? Is there anything that's conflictual? Is there duplication of service? What structures are in place to determine who provides the identified services for our kids? And the third question is what barriers to school and families impede the smooth transfer of support, intervention, and communication. And the third area is values and ethics. So how do our social workers ensure equity and access and the advocacy for all students? The remaining three topic areas include service delivery for all, training and professional development, assessment and clinical skills, and the guiding questions for those main topic areas. For service delivery for all, or how are our social workers providing proactive services versus responsive? How do social workers provide caregivers with the necessary support to ensure barriers are removed for the successful development of the whole child? And looking at training and professional development, we'll ask, how is Parkway ensuring quality training for social workers to build capacity for the success of services? And finally, the assessment and clinical skills. What formal assessments do social workers generally facilitate? And finally, how the assessments provide information to identify, respond to, and monitor student needs. So these 6 areas then will be reviewed, and I look forward to coming back in February and talking with you about the final results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. President Todd, Vice President Hopper, member of the board, Dr. Marty, and Mrs. Stover. I too am grateful for the opportunity to be able to share with you about our district counselors' targeted review. And I want to just start with a little bit of history. Our department, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, came to be as a result of some restructuring in our district and your approval last year. And with that restructuring, there have been some different expectations than what was in the past. 3 that I want to highlight as a responsibility of this department. We are expected to serve as liaisons between Parkway School community, governmental agencies, similar organizations throughout the metropolitan area, and other stakeholders throughout the community within the school district boundaries. We are also asked to provide leadership in ensuring equity for all students within the Parkway School District while implementing the recommendations of the Equity Task Force. And then the position fosters a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community while supporting students and staff to address issues and the opportunities that impede students' learning and feelings of belonging. As that shift has occurred, some of the responsibilities of our department, of course, have shifted. And historically, we've had district counselors that have done a variety of things, and their job description has grown over the years. District counselors are slightly different than building counselors in that they are not assigned to one building, but we have 3 of them, and they are assigned to an area of the district, and then the 3 of them share the responsibilities of supporting the north area. So one person may have 8 schools to support. And in that support, it is a mixture of both student caseload and providing the PD that a building may need and supporting the staff. So when we look at that, we have to consider with the resources that we have and always considering in our targeted reviews, reviewing every 6 to 8 years, how those human resources and our capital resources are best utilized. And so with this targeted review, we, as with Mrs. Magaja, we both had similar timelines. We also started in September with our initial protocol and bringing together our committee to identify the questions and the main topics that we wanted to review. We're fortunate to be able to meet with 3 of you as our subcommittee in October and solidify some of the questions that we had, take your feedback here tonight to present. And after tonight, we'll start our data collection, interviews and surveys to answer the questions that we have, to bring forth to you in mid-February recommendations that we are hoping be approved, and we can then proceed with implementation. And so our committee identified 4 main topics as well. Mission, vision, and purpose, school, home, community connection, and professional development and support. Mission, vision, and purpose is clearly always going back to our why. Why are we here? And so the questions that we want to ask as a committee start with, how can district counselors best support the vision and the equity, the educational equity policy, as well as what is called of us in the Equity Task Force recommendations. We would like to look to see what are the roles and responsibilities of the district counselors and how they can best serve in our current reality. Do the roles and responsibilities that our district counselors have align with the desired outcomes of what is our DEI department now? And how does the district counselor's roles and responsibilities align or overlap with the roles and responsibilities of the care coordinators, SEBs, social workers, and building counselors? Back to that review of, are we utilizing our resources to the best of our abilities and full capacities? The homeschool connection and community connection, we want to look to see in what ways are district counselors a resource for our families. How can we better support and make that connection with our students, our families, and our school? How are district counselors building relationships with and amongst our stakeholders, so families, support staff, organizations outside of the district, and et cetera? So there's a big opportunity for us to be able to support our kids by utilizing and bringing forth to the best of our ability our outside resources. And then how do district counselors support staff with helping students build socio-emotional awareness and maintaining good character and academic success? And as we were meeting with our subcommittee, one of the questions that was brought up, and rightfully so, and we will be looking into, is how, as a district, is this resource compared with other districts and their resources, and what can we consider doing to better advance this resource of district counselors? As far as professional development, we wanted to see what PD do district counselors provide to our support staff that will support students, staff, and community members? What has been the impact of professional development led by our district counselors? What specific knowledge and skills should district counselors possess to provide professional development and bridge the gap between stakeholders and our community members? And what ongoing PD do our district counselors need to support students, staff, and the community? This is all to get at the fact that we are always ever growing learners. We're always learning. That piece of they need the development in order to bring it forth and to be able to support our students. And then lastly, the support piece. How are district counselors ensuring equitable services to all? And just when we talk about the sure way that the system is designed as current and present, is it equitable? 3 district counselors, 4 areas, and how do we assign our caseloads? How do we identify caseloads? How do we determine who gets support when and how? How has working with district counselors impacted our students? How has working with district counselors impacted teachers and staff? And finally, how has students, families, and school staff been impacted by the following programs? And that would be our Equity in Action team, our PAMI program, which is Parent Advocating for Multicultural Excellence in Education, our Superintendent's Leadership Council for our students, and then Spirit of Excellence and Middle School Summit. These are all programs that our district counselors co-facilitate and co-lead. So what is the impact on our students with those programs? Are there opportunities for us to make changes to be more effective? Are there other things that we should be considering in adding support for our students and our families? And so I too thank you for your time. I know I believe what's holding you up from getting into your cookies, Kevin. I look forward to any feedback that you have as we move forward in our targeted review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say
Close.
thank you to both of you for providing, the time and the opportunity for the subcommittee. It was really great to be able to provide real-time feedback, and I could tell that some of those elements were, referenced tonight. We just look forward to seeing what your evaluations yield, and look forward to February.
I do have one question for both of you. Will staffing be looked at, like your staffing level for these positions? Are you going to be looking at that at all? I guess I'm wondering about the only having 3 district counselors and 1 is being shared within the north area, and how those kind of decisions are made. And if those are the types of things that we're going to be looking at to make sure that our staffing levels are appropriate.
Absolutely. Part of that is one of the questions that we both really
Go to microphone. Yeah.
I forget the
Just so you're on record.
newbies, I tell you. Absolutely, we will be looking at staffing, because one of the questions that we do share is that overlap between roles. Right now, everybody can always use more people, right? But we are really blessed with the wealth of resources that we have. And what we really would love to do, I get the pleasure of being a partner with Mrs. Magaja, and we really would like to flesh out how do our roles that we supervise overlap. And so that people know basically where are my responsibilities in supporting the children, and if some of the roles can be shifted to other things, or do we need more of the same role? So all of that we will be looking at.
Well, along those same lines, since we're doing these two at the kind of the same timeline, I think that's an important thing, right? You're going to be looking at the roles. To Mrs. Hopper's question, do you need more or just more clarity, right, in the roles? So
Absolutely.
we don't have overlap. Because again, it's a good time, and it's a really timely that we're actually doing these at the same time.
It actually really is.
And Dr. Tyson is going to keep you on task, right?
Oh, yes, with his numbers and figures and
Yes,
everything.
yes.
May I ask one more question of you? So I see that the title of this is District Counselor Targeted Review, but you also mentioned about how you're going to be taking a look at their interaction with building counselors and how those are different. So will there ever be, or how does that work, that you'll get a review of what our building counselors do, and might some of that roll into this at all, or is that completely separate, or how does that work?
So just to clarify, and I think that's part of one of the things that we do need to bring clarity to, because our district counselor has a title that doesn't necessarily match what people would expect that they do. So I don't oversee counselors. That's a whole nother land.
I saw Dr. Lucas look at me like, the question that you have is, we have a lot of different areas that are working on mental health and supporting for our students. As these two have discussed tonight, we also have our school counselors that work with Aaron Schulte, our coordinator of counseling. So these are two targeted reviews, but in the targeted review, there's going to be questions and discussions around where there's overlap, so that we can have clear definitions of where we are to support. But also we need to break down some silo mentality of, this is what my role and responsibility is, but how do we as a group and organization support the students as a more of a holistic approach? As we've added positions over the years, which has been great and fantastic, when you add positions, sometimes there's these pieces where it's like, is that my role? Is it not my role? And so we are really.
I'm putting you on the spot, and I don't mean to do that.
I'd have to
so no worries.
we have a as in our workshops that we do in April, and we look at our program evaluation. There is a detailed schedule and calendar that we have for those.
Just get us an email tonight, let us know.
I've already got it done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Before you, there's another person in the room tonight that we had to introduce, who I.
Oh, well, I was actually going to introduce him to the board later, but go right ahead.
No, do you mind?
No, not at all.
Or maybe, Paul, you want to introduce Mike? Christian? Sure. Go to Mike.
The microphone.
Microphone.
And bring Mike with you.
Sorry, caught me off guard. I'm very excited to introduce our new head of security, Mike Christian. Has been with us now a little over a month. Mike comes to us. He's actually a Parkway West graduate. Both he and his wife went to Parkway West. And Mike has a long career as a police officer and also in the FBI. He's a retired FBI agent just recently. And in the interview process, he indicated he really wanted to do something to make a difference, and particularly in schools. And we're excited to hear that. And so we're fortunate to have him on board and looking forward to all his work on behalf of keeping us safe. So, Mike Christian.
Welcome.
I will just say, and I think Paul would agree, we've been really impressed with Mike's grabbing hold and his leadership and his knowledge and background, so we're really excited to have Mike. It's going to be a great addition to the district.
Okay.
I guess there's nobody else that are.
Okay, great. Because Kevin wants to eat his cookie.
Is there anybody online you want to mention?
No, there's only 3 people. So we have no work session tonight, we have no special meeting, we have no closed meeting, so may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you all for attending and/or watching.